I did a video this morning. I have not posted up yet. I will be posting it, okay? Psychological warfare, military, psychological command unit, it's a branch of the military who does psychological operations. They're directly involved in false flags on our society, okay? They're directly involved in that type of stuff. But anyhow, when it comes to TFL, incel, men going their own way. I've noticed something, and I noticed this years ago when I watch it and I watch the trend. And I watch how people speak and I pay attention to how people speak. Okay, and yesterday I brought up, okay, I talked about that article, okay, that was posted up on the Huffington Post and TFL and Steve Hoka. Okay, and we all know a certain person on YouTube that's been attacking Steve Hoka for a while now, who took down all their videos here about a month or so ago, and everything they've done since then, the majority of their channel is Steve Hoka, Steve Hoka, Steve Hoka, Steve Hoka. Okay, so, and with this Huffington Post thing and the red flag laws that I talked about last night with Steve Hoka in a podcast recording, but I was looking around me and I'm really starting to see some things that are adding up, that are coming together here. So let's ask some questions first off. So throughout history, as history's replayed itself, if we go back to Nazi Germany, World War II, their population at the time, social engineering was being used and people were demonizing people, which has happened throughout society. Okay? From the Jews being attacked, even though there are Jews at the top that are very evil people, but it's not every single Jew. We had the undesirables, we had them round up elderly people, handicapped people, disabled people, this kind of stuff. And throughout all of history, conspiracy theorists, conspiracy is nothing more than when two or more people get together and make a plan to carry out something. Okay, that is what a conspiracy theory is. A conspiracy is. We've added the words theory to it to stifle, to cover up truth. That's really what's taking place. And if you do your due diligence, your homework, you find out throughout history that 90% of the people who were attacked and called conspiracy theorists before World War I, before World War II, and so on, before something major happens, were always shunned, called names, and attacked. And then after the stuff took place, people realized and found out that these people they were calling conspiracy theorists are nut jobs, okay, tinfoil wearing hat nut jobs, were telling the truth. But their demise had to happen. The situation had to happen before they would open their eyes and see it. Okay? And then I pay attention to what's going on around me because our military has a psychological unit in it that does psychological things in society. Okay? And psychological warfare. Has anybody ever heard of psychological warfare? If you haven't heard of psychological warfare, look it up. Read about it. Educate yourself a little bit. What I'm seeing now seems to fit in to very well could be psychological warfare. Okay, going on right now with incel, TFL, men going their own way. Okay, I seeing this, I can't confirm it at this time. Okay, but I'm seeing it. I'm seeing signs that there's a very good chance this is what's going on right under your nose. You know, they've been able to infiltrate anything that's been brought into society that was good for the people has always been infiltrated, always, and destroyed. Okay? The men's rights movement, even though most of it was online, you had it to go out into the public. And it was always stifled and infiltrated and destroyed, and the men got together to talk about the topics. Feminist women always barged in and destroyed the meeting. It wasn't allowed to have it, wasn't allowed to have it. And this type of stuff's gone on forever and ever and ever. But when it came to the men's issues online, like TFL Global, okay, is around the world, when it came to this, it's really hard to infiltrate something that isn't in a community where they can send somebody in. So what would be the best way to bring down something you don't want online? Outside of just taking down their site. Okay, so let's just think about this for a moment. TFL, incel, men going their own way, men's right activists, okay? How would you shut men's right activists up? How would you shut men going their own way up? How would you shut incel up? How would you shut them down? Okay? How would you shut that down? Through psychological warfare. That's how you'd shut them down. So we already had two psyopses, phony baloney things that took place that never happened, that were directed towards incel, okay, towards men's rights activists, people speaking out, men, you know, men going their own way, TFLers, so on, right? And then you had the article from Huffington Post, who clearly brought up Steve Hoka's name, okay? And they also brought up the two phony baloney things that was not real, fake news reports. And then we have this guy that likes to attack Steve Hoka. You know, the funny thing I find about this guy is, and I'm going to post this video up, but I'm going to say this here on this live stream, is the fact this guy came on the scene a couple, 3 years ago, and he was speaking out about NWO, and he was speaking out about dating scene topics. Huh, do you know anybody else that done that? Oh, that's right, me. The guy who gave the name to TFL. That's right. That's what I've always done. Because NWO is where this problem came from the very beginning. And this is why it's also global. This is why you got people in Ireland, people in Germany, people in United Kingdom, okay? People in Ukraine, no lie, all living TFL. This is around the world. Japan has a big epidemic of it. It's all around the world. Of course it is. That's NWO. It's been deliberately engineered to be this way. But when you get into PUA, what's some of the stuff that we've always heard from people for TFLers, okay, what is some of the stuff you've always heard from people? Okay, especially when it's centered at men. You got to improve yourself. You got to better yourself, improve yourself. Okay? Because you know it's your fault. So they went out and men bought PUA pickup artist material, to learn how to talk to another human being that they had no problem talking to while they were growing up. Truth is sweet. Does TFL and PUA mean? Okay. TFL is True Force Loneliness. Okay. PUA is a pickup artist industry. MRA, they like how these names are named, okay? PUA, pickup artist industry, MRA, men's rights activists. Okay, so you have a situation where, from what I've been observing and the way things are playing out, we have a person who came up here, 2.5, 3 years ago, started making videos speaking about NWO, and then started speaking about the dating scene topics just like myself. And he talked about TFL, and he talked about incel, okay, and men's rights activists and so on, men's topics, right? And so he pretty much has been doing what I've been doing all along, and then he takes down all of his videos, and then he starts putting back up videos, and he's now going along with mainstream narrative. So he's completely flipped the script, okay? And then he starts attacking Steve Hoka. He's even mentioned my name a couple of times. But, he done the video to the Huffington Post report. And if you pay attention to some of the stuff he's talking about, and you know anything about your history, he's lumping people into groups. So if we're like in Nazi Germany, at the time they were pressing people down, or over in Russia, and you had groups of people like elderly and handicapped and so on, that the government was suppressing down, okay? These people were being victims in their society, okay? So, you lump these people together because the one thing they don't want you to do is social engineering has created the problems we have from the very beginning. Okay, NWO, social engineering. And when the social engineering affects one gender or another gender or a group of people, people in society have a tendency of not looking, not paying attention, And when by the time they pay attention, it just be just like in Nazi Germany. By the time they were rounding up people that they were putting in their damn camps, they rounded up elderly people, handicapped people, was quote unquote the undesirables. Okay, this is where that come from. But when I look at what this guy's done, and I think about history, and I think about how he's labeled this. So if you got people that's all experiencing something, okay, they're all experiencing corruption brought from social engineering, brought from NWO, and these people are experiencing this problem, and they start talking about this problem. Then you get somebody that comes along and says, oh, well, they got forms all over their place and blah, 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 and labels them and says, and these people are miserable and they're just wallowing in their misery and they're getting together and they're talking about it. Well, did you ever stop to think of people are getting together and it seems to be growing and a whole lot of people are getting together and their stories all seem to be the same? And they're talking about a problem and their stories all be the same, that there just might be some truth to that. Did anybody ever stop to think about that? And if these people get together and they're talking about it and the powers to be at the top don't want it talked about, well, you're going to call it taboo. Because what is taboo? Taboo is something that's not supposed to be talked about in society. Well, why would you have something called taboo you're not supposed to talk about? Because you're covering something up. It's corruption. That's why you would have that to begin with. There would be no other reason other than to cover, that's right, to cover up for. To cover something up. Why do you think They used conspiracy theorists, and they took the conspiracy and added theorists to cover up. See, one and the same thing. To cover something up they don't want people knowing. This type of stuff has gone on forever. Okay, forever. Throughout history, we've actually had them go after people and kill people who were speaking out about something they didn't want others to know. Covering something up. It's sort of like on the playground. The rat in the hat, the rat. The person who rats something off. Oh, well, we're going to go beat the hell out of them, ain't we? Because they told on us, didn't they? Same mentality, isn't it? Sure is. Okay, and truth is sweet, one more time. Who is Elliot Rodgers? Elliot Rodgers was an actor. He was the child of the producer of Hunger Games. He came up on YouTube with that actor's name, that stage name. And if you do a YouTube search for Elliot Rodgers, you'll still find him. He talked about his inability to not be able to get a woman. Okay? It was all staged. It was an act. It was a direct attack on TFLers. Then they had him do his act and go out and pretend to kill people that they never killed. That's right. It's another psyop, just like the Canada van ramming into them people at the mall here this few months back. It was a psyop, okay? That's what that was. That was fraudulent. It was a psyop, just like Sandy Hook, just like Parkland High School. It was another fraudulent event. That's who L.A. Rodgers is. An actor. But that was directed at TFL. That was directed at MRA. That was directed at Incel. That was directed at men's rights activists. That was directed at this topic I talk about, okay? That's what that was about. The same with the Huffington Post. But I guess what concerns me here is the fact that we got somebody to come up here on YouTube and done the exact same thing I've done for as long as I've been here. About 2.5, 3 years ago, what have you. And this guy has pulled all of his stuff down and he's put stuff back up now. This guy seemed to be awake to New World Order. He seemed to be awake to what's going on in our world, right? So overnight he went back to sleep and he's following mainstream and narrative, huh? Then he does a video saying once you're awake you can never go back to sleep. But what have I said before? Actions speak louder than words. All you got to do is pay attention. So see, he's double spoke because he's got his video about once you're awake, you can never go back to sleep. Then he comes up here and addresses the men's topics again, and he clearly is doing the exact same thing that's happened over and over throughout history, and he's putting people into groups with names. And he's using shaming tactics to shut them up, to quiet them. He's using the Huffington Post article as, you're going to be in trouble with the law. Scare tactics, fear porn. Okay? But I'm looking at his words and I'm looking at the way he's done this and I'm beginning to believe, of course I could be wrong, but I'm beginning to believe, he don't say who he really is. He never has. I got nothing against somebody covering their identity, but all of us understand this. You can use whatever fraudulent name you want on the internet. But if you do something and they want you, they're going to take your IP and they're going to come and get you. Your IP will bring them to your door. You cannot hide yourself on the internet. You're only hiding yourself from the average Joe. You're not hiding yourself from the powers to be or the people that in the know. Because they will pull your IP and know who you are. You're not going to hide yourself from these people. And anybody that's awake should already understand and know this, okay? Now, like Jerry gives out his real name, I've given out my real name. This is our prerogative. I couldn't take my real name back from the public if I tried because I've been doing this for too many years, okay? So everybody knows Jerry's name. Everybody knows my name. Okay, everybody knows Kevin's name. That's right, because see, Kevin didn't hide himself. He put his full name out there for the public, and he spoke out, and he came in and talked, okay? He don't do it regularly, but Kevin's here, and Kevin don't. He's real. He's not hiding himself, okay? Jerry's real. He's not hiding himself. I'm real. I'm right here in your face. I don't hide myself, okay? And Steve Hoka has always used his real name. This is his real name, okay? He's never hid himself from the public, okay? Never. But we have this guy who's been hiding himself since the day he came on, but he's went from being awake to being a sound asleep and pushing the mainstream narrative overnight, just like that. And he's went from that to attacking Steve Hoka, and then he's done doublespeak. He's come up and posted a video up saying how once you're awake, you always be awake, and you can never go back to sleep. And then he turns around and does this video on the Huffington Post last night. And all you got to do is pay attention to the words. Yes, Joel Juice Skillful, that's exactly who I'm talking about. You're correct, okay? And if you listen to his wording, listen to what he's saying. He is going with nothing but mainstream narrative crap, and he's using shaming tactics. He's used, well, Steve Hoka and myself, even mentioning my name, we might have visitors. We might have media. We might get what we don't want. We might be attacked. Okay? Now, pay attention to the red flag laws that's been pushed, that they're pushing into the states right now underneath everybody's nose and using it to take your guns. They use fraudulent reports, psyopses, false flags, whatever you want to call them, bullshit to pass that bill that they're shoving down people's throat when they try to put it into law in them states. We've already got some states that's implemented it. Well, don't you think they're going to do the same thing here? Yes, they are. But, you know, like the militia, they could infiltrate the militia because it's out in society. Any group that's ever formed in society, they could infiltrate. But they had trouble when it came to men's issues and TFL, incel, so on, infiltrating it because it's global. Everybody that's experiencing this is all around the world. They're coming online to talk about it. They formed blogs. They formed this. They formed that to talk about the stuff. Okay? So this is what they've done, okay? Well, how would you infiltrate that? That's next to impossible to infiltrate. Oh, psychological warfare. Do a few psyopses in public. Then use psychological warfare to demonize. You know, some of the things I've heard since the beginning of this is because I talked about men's issues that I was dangerous to society. Somehow I was the one that was dangerous to society and had a mental issue because I talked about men's issues and I tried to put a group of people together for a support group for somewhere these people that are all experiencing this could meet like-minded people to talk about the issue. But like anything else in society, when NWO creates it and brings it on to us, if they don't want it discovered or talked about, they call it taboo. And people with social conditioning and programming fall into it. They buy it. I mean, you know how you believe everything that's fed to you and you don't look into anything? You know, it's also I've always said about TFL. When you say that TFL isn't real, True Force Loneliness isn't real, and it's the guy's own thought, well, then you're blaming millions of men all over the world, saying it's all these millions of men's own fault, huh? But then ask yourself something. If it wasn't real and it was their own fault and were fraudulent, how could they sell pickup artist industry books and seminars? How could they sell a book, PUA, pickup artist, teaching men how to get a woman in their life? If there wasn't an issue, you couldn't sell the product, could you? Could you take a starter off a car in today's time and get in a time machine and go back to the Western days before vehicles were ever here and sell that starter? Market that starter and make a living off of it, will you? Go ahead, try that. See, it's so in your face. It is so in your face. All this is this is NWO. This is destruction of the family unit. It's a direct branch off of feminism. It's to destroy the family unit and to divide into genders. Divide and conquer, divide and conquer, divide and conquer. And when these guys get together, they're all experiencing the same thing. And you got millions of them all over the world, okay, experiencing the exact same thing, saying the exact same thing. To disregard that and say that there's millions of men are all nuts is completely insane. Because if that's the case, then every one of these false flags and every one of you so-called truthers that are speaking out, you must be insane. You must be nuts. You must be a conspiracy theorist. This is why I'm saying what I'm saying, okay? Because no, you're not nuts. You're seeing what's going on and you're aware of what's going on. You're not asleep, okay? You're actually pretty intelligent. But when you got this many people experiencing the same problems over and over and over, and it's all across the world, people experiencing this, it's because it's really going on. And if you're marketing a book and seminars that they've been doing for years now, making a lot of money on it, and then you're going to say the problem don't exist. Well, if it didn't exist, you sure couldn't sell the material, could you? No, you couldn't. But see, I think they're in fear of TFLers and incel and men going their own way, creating communities or pockets throughout society, which needs to happen. Support groups where they can go to talk to somebody that ain't asleep, that ain't going to blame them for something they had nothing to do. But I think what's going on here is that scares the people at the top. They don't want people forming these groups and talking about it because then they'll start, where did this come from? And they'll start looking, why is this happening? Where's it come from? Which I already done. And then they're going to figure out where it came from. See, they don't want that. It's the same thing as reason that they call you a conspiracy theorist. Okay, and I think what you're seeing here is the beginning of them coming after men's rights activists, TFL, just like they're going to come after the so-called conspiracy theorists. Oh, yes, they will. If we allow this to go on and we don't stop the corruption, they're going to come after us. They're going to target us. They've already targeted your guns right now under your nose. Okay, so, and I got this David D. Rothschild fan account, international banking cartel. You think I believe that hocus pocus? What I have there is a dumbass. Okay, here, let me help this dum-dum here out. I'm going to help him out right now for you, okay? Yep. Oh, man, he's been hidden. He's gone. Oops. Oh, I had a oops and removed a moron. Okay, what can I say? That's how I handle shit like that, okay? There's no need for that type of crap. It's just sick. This is what it really is. It's no different than the conspiracy theorist. Truth is sweet. They would call him a conspiracy theorist. Because how dare him point out truth? He would be a nut job. One day he could be targeted just like I could be targeted, just like any of us to speak out could be targeted by these criminals. But the certain person up here that Joe Skillful just said the name of, yeah, I'm often wondering who this guy really is. Who is this guy really? Could he be military? Could he be civilian affairs, you know? Could this be a psychological operation? You know, psychological warfare? How many people have heard the term psychological warfare? Go look it up and go read it. Pay attention to what's going on around you. I just don't see somebody coming up here and mimicking what I've done for years and being here doing the same thing that I've been doing for 2.5 to 3 years, then just suddenly rip all of your videos down and suddenly be a sound asleep going with mainstream narrative and then start attacking TFL. And then come up with this article that's 6 months old after we've already had 2 psyopses directly pointing at us. Okay? See, so how would you infiltrate something like TFL? This is how you would do it. You would come online. You would pretend to be one of us. You'd spend a couple, 3 years making your reputation. Then you would flip the script and you would come after them. And then you would do stuff like showing this article and these phony baloney things that went on with Elliot Rogers and the Canada band running into it and claiming incel. You're going to use this to try to push laws, ain't you? To be able to come on here and shut us up. You don't want men all over the world that are experiencing what the powers to be at the top have done to us, having groups and getting together and giving each other support. I mean, since when is it a crime for people to get together and talk about something they're experiencing? Are they angry? Well, you're damn right they're angry. I mean, if I took the food away from you and wouldn't let you buy any food, you'd be angry. If I denied you your shelter over your freaking head, even if you had the money in your pocket and kept you on the street in a cardboard box, you'd be angry. And if I did that to a whole bunch of you and you all got angry and you're all angry, you'd have a justified reason to be angry. But now what if I tell you it's your own fault and you don't have a right to be angry and you're dangerous to society? What if I throw that in your face? Would you like that? Would you love it? Because that's exactly what you're doing to men. They didn't create this problem. They didn't want this problem. They didn't ask for the problem. It's not an accident. It's not BS when you got millions of people all over the world living it. I'm sorry. They're all saying the same thing. You know, there's not much more I can say, but I wanted to get up here for a short live stream. I wanted to say what I have to say here. I'm going to be posting a video up. It's about 50 minutes long. Okay? If it gets taken down, I'll just put it over on BitChute and I'll put it over on Facebook. I'll still put the damn thing up. So it ain't going to do you any good to flag it down because it'll go right back up. Okay? If you're doing it like the other one I did, suddenly just got flagged down or put in private mode. That's right. When I talked about this guy's name before, that Joe Skillful just put up there, the last time I talked about him, and I said what I had to say, that particular video the next day was put in private mode by YouTube. Only I could view it. The world wasn't allowed to view it. Huh, how coincidental, huh? See, so who is this guy? I'm almost beginning to think he's military intelligence. And he's here doing a psychological operation, psychological warfare. And it's against Steve Holcomb, myself, and the men's rights movement. Okay? So, to shut us up. That's really what it's about, is to shut us up. That's my suspicions, okay? So now you know what I suspect. Could I be wrong? Of course I could. I'm not saying I'm right. But I'm also not going to say I'm wrong. Because there's too many red flags. Okay, that's where that comes from. There's too many red flags. And his last video, and his last video up, if you know anything about what's going on and anything about your history, you listen to what this man says. And you think about what he's done, and you think about everything I've said here, and you look at that video, and you think about what I'm saying. And if you got any brains at all, you're going to see what I'm seeing. And the only thing we could do is just watch and see. I personally suspect there's a good chance this guy's military, and he's in here doing a psychological operation, psychological warfare against us. And the day's going to come where they're going to push some damn law or bill. We're going to have to wait and see. That's all we can do. But with that, guys, I'm out of here, okay?